Year 3, we're ready for our second lesson of our virtual maths lessons. Yesterday, you should have been looking at unit fractions and identifying unit fractions in a shape. And just to recap, a unit fraction is when the numerator, so that's the top number, is always 1. So it could be 1/3, it could be 1/5, it could be 1/10, it could be 1/20. But if the numerator is 1, then it's a unit fraction. And we're carrying on with unit fractions today, but today we are comparing and ordering them. So, this means you've already done step 1, you've loaded the video, welcome. So let's go over some of our new vocabulary. The newer words are now in orange. So all the words that were in yellow are words that you would have come across yesterday. So on top of that, we're building on top of that vocabulary now, and we're adding to compare, greater than, less than, and order. So we're still using all those words from the day before as well, but now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 new words or phrases to add, and you'll figure out what those mean and how we use them as the flow goes on. So, recap. What is a fraction? I want you to pause the video really quickly and have a think about what a fraction is based on your work yesterday, and then press play to find out the answer. So, a fraction shows the parts of a whole. So it's made up of your numerator, the top number, that shows how many of those parts we're looking at or have taken away. And then the denominator is the bottom number, and that tells me how many parts come together to make a whole. So the numerator and the denominator, unless it's a whole amount, usually are very different numbers. And what I have here is a fraction wall. Now you might have seen these in Year 2 or maybe even at the start of Year 3, but this is going to be crucial for your learning today, so please make sure you've loaded this on your Google Classroom as well, but it's always here on this side and on this video for you to keep referring back to. So, the fraction wall shows how many unit fractions, so they all have a numerator of 1, how many unit fractions make up one whole. The bars are all the same size, so this is all the same size to show us how big or small the fractions are. So if we take a look at this fraction wall here, we can see that we've got one whole at the very top there. One whole can be made up out of 2 halves because there's 1 and there's 2. So those fractions are 1/2 each. The denominator is 2 because it shows me that there are 2 parts that this has been split into. Underneath we have thirds, and you need 3 thirds to make up one whole. So this is a little bit like the bar model that we've practiced with our addition, subtraction, multiplication and division, is that the bars have to meet up, they have to be the same size to show me that they represent the same amount. So moving on to quarters underneath, and I know how many sections it's been broken into because I've looked at the denominator, the bottom number, and the denominator is 4. So that means it's been broken up into 1, 2, 3, 4 parts. And we've got 5ths and 6ths and 8ths and 10ths and 12ths. Now, you would also have things like 7ths and 9ths, but just in Year 3, we've left those off for now just to make the fraction wall a little bit easier to understand. You will see as well, at the top of the fraction wall, you have one whole part. It's not been broken up into anything, it's the biggest part of the fraction wall. And as we go down the fraction wall, the fractions and the parts get smaller and smaller, but the denominator, the number at the bottom, gets bigger and bigger. It's a bit confusing sometimes. The bigger the denominator, the smaller the fraction, because basically it means I've split up my cake into more pieces. Instead of splitting it into 2 pieces, where I would get 2 very big pieces, I've split it into 12 pieces. So I have 12 smaller pieces that, when I put them back all together, would give me the same size as that whole, or the same size as those 2 halves put together. So just remember, the bigger the denominator, the smaller the fraction. So with that in mind, You can now load your Google quiz that is on this session on Google Classrooms, and you have your representing tasks. So pause this video, give that a go, and then come back for the answers. So which is bigger, 1/10 or 1/4? Now I need to look at my fraction rule for this. I'm not going to guess the answer off the top of my head. This is our representing stage. This is when we look at all the materials we've been given and use them to help us. So look at this fraction rule. I need to find 1/10, which is down here, and I need 1/4, which is up here. And I'm literally looking to see which of those one pieces is bigger. Is it 1/4 or is it 1/10? And the answer is obviously 1/4 is bigger than 1/10. Even though it's got a smaller value denominator, it means it's a bigger fraction. There's less pieces I've split it into, which means the actual individual pieces are bigger. So 1/4 is bigger than 1/10. Which is bigger, 1/8, which are here, or 1/2, which is up here? So again, I'm looking at the actual size of it. That's 1/2, that's 1/8. Really, really easy. That's loads smaller, which means 1/2 is bigger than 1/8. Now I've changed it up. Which one is smaller this time? Is it 1/5, which is here in the red, or is it 1/6 in the yellow? Which one is smaller this time? So we're actually looking for the smaller one. And it's easy because they're on top of each other. These lines don't match up. 1/6 is much smaller than 1/5, even though the denominator seems like a bigger number. And then the last one, which is smaller? 1/1, so 1/2, or 1/12. Which one's smaller, 1/2 or 1/12? Of course, it's 1/12. My whole has been split into 12 pieces. My cake has got 12 slices to it now, instead of just being an entire cake. So let's move on to our fluency tasks then. Right, on your Google Forms, these stickers, which would usually go into your books, they've been broken up into little questions, and you need to put the symbols for your first fluency task. We need our greater than or our less than symbols, and we need our equal symbols. So we've got greater than, less than, and equals. Remember, the crocodile's mouth eats the bigger value. It always goes for the bigger meal. So the mouth should be open to the biggest fraction. So on your Google form, you just need to find the keys, or in fact, I think it might be multiple choice. You just need to click the correct symbol. Is it greater than, less than, or equals to? So let's have a quick look. We've got here, I've got 3 pieces in this circle, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces in that circle. Now it's unit fractions, so only one piece, only one part has been shaded in each of these shapes, but I'm trying to figure out which part is bigger. Is it 1/3 or is it 1/7? Well, which one looks the biggest? If I was given a cake slice that was that big and a cake slice that was that big, which one would I go for? Which is the bigger one? It is 1/3. So you should have your greater than symbol for that one. Now I want you to give the others a go. We've got 1/4 and 1 out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So my numerator is the shaded bit. So here I've got 1. That's one piece shaded. So that's my top number. And then I put my line. And then my denominator is how many squares were there all together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's 1/6. So which is bigger? 1/4 or 1/6? Well, the quarter is the bigger bar of chocolate there, so I would want 1/4 instead of 1/6. It's the same as saying I'm sharing my food with 4 people or I'm sharing my food with 6 people. If there are less people, I'll get more food. If there's more people, I'll get less food. So I want there to be less people because I want the more, I want the bigger fraction. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sections to this triangle, and you've only got 1, 2, 3, 4 on the other triangle. So I want you to have a go at doing this one, and this one independently. Remember, the shaded part is your numerator, but then the shaded part and all the other parts in that shape are your denominator. So have a go at this one, and then come back to the video. So you can pause it and then come back to the video, and we'll go over our second fluency. Right, your second fluency is ordering unit fractions. The first two are from smallest to largest, and the next ones are from largest to smallest, or the other way around. Can't quite remember which way I've put them. Anyway, so you don't have visual representations this time. You only have the fraction, but in our earlier slide, you have the fraction wall to help you. So you can go back to this if you need it. If not, try and challenge yourself to work this out in your head. Out of 1/3, 1/8 and 1/5, which order do they need to go in if it was smallest to largest? So I want you to give that one a go on your Google Forms. It will have the question, so the fractions, in the order they are on this sticker, and then you have to write your response underneath by rearranging them into the correct order. To show you've done a fraction, just put the slash key, so it should look like that, 1/3. So your fractions will look like that, just because we can't do them properly on a computer. And once you've done that, come back to this video for your thinking task. Right, your first thinking task is convince me unit fractions cannot be greater than 1/2. And it says here, think carefully about the denominators that are being used. So if we look at the fraction 1/2, my numerator is 1. My denominator is 2. That's only 1 more than my numerator. Let's have a look at some other unit fractions. I've got 1/3, 1/4 and 1/5. If I did a fraction this side, so it goes 2, 3, 4, 5, what fraction would come before 1/2? You might need to look back at your fraction rules for this. But what fraction would come before the 1/2? And in which case, would that work? What number is that denominator? Now, I'm not going to give you the answers. Really, I'm asking you more questions there because I want you to have a think. If you're on red tasks, if you're on thinking tasks, you need to be applying your learning and applying your skills independently. So have a think. What would that denominator be if it wasn't 2, 3, 4 or 5? We were going backwards this way. We're getting bigger with our fractions. Would that work as a fraction, as a unit fraction? I want you to have a think about it and write your response in the question below. Your second thinking sticker, what's the same and what's different? Now for this one, I really only need to know one thing that's the same and one thing that is different, and it's really, really easy. Think about the numerators and the denominators, and I want to see that you've used those key words, which are spelled correctly on this PowerPoint. So again, I'm not really going to give you much more information than that because you've got to craft your response about what is the same between 1/2, 1/3, 1/4 and 1/5, and what is different. Think about what the title of this lesson is as well. That might help you a little bit. Right, your last task then, now that you've finished your red tasks, is your explaining task. Now this is completely independent. This is you bringing together all of your knowledge from unit fractions and comparing and ordering unit fractions to have a go at this one. It says, insert the missing denominator to make this number sentence correct. How many denominators could there be? And explain how you know. So explain how you know you've chosen the correct denominator. For example, I know that I couldn't put 1/2 is greater than 1/12, which it is, and then 1/12 is greater than 1/10. That wouldn't work because if I look at my denominators, the value of the digit is getting bigger and then it's getting smaller again. And that doesn't quite make sense. So using this misconception here, so using this mistake, and using your knowledge of unit fractions and comparing unit fractions, I want you to think of as many different denominators that you could use in this blank space here. And I also want you to explain how you know you are correct. So give this a go in your Google Forms. When you have finished, click submit. Please make sure it's submitted and being sent to our teachers. If you're confused, just drop us a message on Class Dojo just to say, oh, I've sent it through. And then the last thing that you need to do is self-assessment. What skills did you practice today? What skills do you think you have improved today? And how might these skills help you in the future? It's a bit strange doing it virtually, but I still want you to reflect on yourself. Think about, have I had high aspirations? Have I been respectful? Have I been independent, innovative, resilient? Have I struggled today? It's okay to struggle. If you have struggled, just let us know that maybe there's something extra we can do for you. We don't want you to sit at home struggling when there possibly might be something that we can help you with. So really think carefully about your self-assessment. You don't need to send this to us. This is just for you to have a think about. And we will see you tomorrow for our next fractions lesson.